Hello and welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live with myself, Daniel Caw, the one and only Keith Jackson. Keith, how's it going?
I'm okay. How are you?
It's wonderful to see you.
You keep saying that. I've
And
not
really mean
believed you at any point.
No, I love to know Hotline. We're going to throw in a minute to our good pal Scott McDermott. I know you've missed Scott a lot.
Missed him, man,
But before we do that, only one place to start, and it's Matt O'Reilly. We talked a lot about him yesterday.
I did, yeah. And I did suggest that in the coming days, things might start to pick up, particularly down south when it's round about this period that the English clubs will start actively pursuing targets. Now, there's been a report from down south today that talks are now ongoing between Celtic and Brighton.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, Sky Sports News put that out earlier on today. And about 15 minutes before we came on here, I got a message from, let's just say, a really well-placed source at Celtic, who refutes that, says that there are no talks at this stage, or not even at this stage, but there have been no talks with Brighton. That's interesting. I don't think that it really means that we can rule Brighton out of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
If Celtic are saying there are no talks, then there are no talks. Take them at face value on that. But the word that we're getting from down south is that Brighton are certainly very interested.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're not open talks, then they might be about to, and these will just be preliminary stuff, you would imagine, just to try and ascertain what sort of price Celtic would be looking at. Because there's no point even having a conversation unless you believe that the figures are going to be close.
Right.
So I think that's where we're at. But that was the latest. Just before sat down here, message from a really well positioned source inside Celtic saying no talks.
Aye.
Not correct.
As you can probably imagine, it's had a very strong reaction on the Hotline Live. Tommy Henderson, OK Brighton, no chance from going to Brighton. Sheila Drysdale, he can do better than Brighton. That seems to be the kind of theme of it, that basically Brighton is below Matt O'Reilly, but we kind of been talking off air. Beautiful part of the world, really ambitious attacking team. I think
football the right way.
I think it'd be tempting if you're O'Reilly.
I think it would be, but then there's also rumours abound down south that the Chelsea are taking a look as a possible replacement for Conor Gallagher. Either Chelsea or a Spurs.
Aye.
I keep wondering about Spurs.
Me too. You think if Ange sees him, he's on the move? I don't know.
I think that Ange Postecoglou would be very interested, but we shall see. I get the feeling of this that it's really going to start gather pace over the next few days. As I said, Celtic saying that there are no talks with Brighton at this moment, but I don't think that means that there's not going to be any.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Should say, if you want to get involved, leave a comment in the comment section below. Let us know what you think Matt O'Reilly lined up, what he's worth. But in the meantime, we're going to bring in Scott McDermott now, all the way from Poland. Scott, how's it going?
I'm good, mate. How are you? Okay?
Very good, thanks. You're obviously out there ahead of Rangers clash with Dynamo Kyiv tomorrow night. I understand you've been hearing from the Dynamo Kyiv manager earlier on today.
We did heard from their coach. I'm not going to try and pronounce his name. Is it Shakovsky, maybe?
That's why I left that to you there.
And they played the number 10 for them, Mikola Shaparenko. There you go. I done no bad.
That was nice.
So, it was interesting. Listen, it's difficult for Dynamo. You forget almost that they're playing their games in Poland. They have been the European games for the last couple of years, obviously due to the kind of ongoing conflict in Ukraine. So that's a really difficult situation for them. You talk about games of this magnitude. So the manager, the coach, was talking about just how tough that is for them, how it means more than football and finance and prestige. They're doing this for an entire nation, trying to put a bit of positivity back into the Ukrainians. So listen, that's what's at stake for them. We know what's at stake for Rangers, so it's going to be such an interesting tie.
What's the stadium like, Scott? I'm guessing that's you in the press room there. What's the actual stadium like?
We are. I think it holds about 15,000, Jacko. So it's probably, I don't know, it's difficult to describe. I mean, it's probably a bit better than like McDermott Park, for instance. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
they're not expecting a big capacity crowd. I think if you watch the highlights of the Partizan game in the last round, there seemed to be kind of one stand full of Ukrainians who did make a bit of noise, obviously, in support of Dynamo, but there was a couple of empty stands as well. And Rangers, we're not sure how many Rangers fans will be here. I mean, we're hearing that it might only be a few hundred, so it might be a strange atmosphere. But in a way, I think that might suit Rangers because
Back to the COVID season.
well,
Okay.
I think we played Dynamo Kyiv away from home. You think it's going to be hostile,
Yeah.
noisy, and really tough to play in. I don't think it will be. I don't think it will be anything like that tomorrow night. I think it'll maybe suit Rangers if they can put in a performance.
I tell you what, the way the fans are feeling just now, though, Scott, it might be more hostile if there was a few thousand Rangers fans over there.
I
That's
know.
where the hostility's likely to come from.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if we're only talking about a few hundred, you do wonder, was that due to maybe a wee bit of apathy among the support? You'd certainly expect more to come to Poland for a Champions League qualifier. But we know the state they're in terms of the squad, this rebuild, short of players, short of bodies, various kind of unknowns in terms of Cantwell, Tavernier. I mean, there just seems to be so much up in the air, and I think punters in general, certainly the Rangers punters I speak to, they're a wee bit kind of fed up. Like they're looking for a bit of positivity. That's why, as I say, the result over in this tie is going to be so crucial, especially by the way after the playoff draw today, because I'm looking at that playoff tie now thinking, on paper anyway, that's a winnable tie. I mean, to me, that's like a Europa League tie. Do you know what I mean? Against FC20 or Salzburg, you'd expect, or you would think that Salzburg would be favourites, and like they'd be a decent outfit. But if Rangers can get their act together, what an opportunity to get to these group stages.
I wonder if 20 might be the favourites for that tie, Scott, and then you Sam Lammers.
That's that. You know Sam Lammers is going to dump in at the Champions League, isn't he? We have a double. It's honestly,
it's written in the stars already.
The Robin proper cock up at the back for Rangers. That's how it'll probably go.
I should say, I put out the clip of us talking on yesterday's Hotline Live about Rangers and about how if they go through, you said, Scott, if they go through this season with the 11 that started at Tynecastle, you both said you could see them, only challenging Hearts for second. Needless to say, it got a very strong response across all of Record Sports social media outlets. I've got a couple of questions for both of you now, though. Lewis Shearer, Clement lost 129 at the start of his Rangers reign, but his tactics different during that run, and if not, what's changed? Does he have a squad capable of his game plans? What do you think about
that? Well, tactically, I don't think much has changed at all. I think the only real difference at the start with Clement was he went sort of back to basics. Now, Michael Beale played rather than with wingers, they were inverted wingers, or you would call them 2 number 10s. Which I actually think, in retrospect, at least Rangers had a clearly defined style under Michael Beale. It wasn't very good, but it was clearly defined. Yeah, you know what you're doing. Clement, obviously, the wingers are wingers. They're paint on their boots out in the touchlines. That, to me, actually has taken a little bit away from the fullbacks and the threat that James Tavernier would have had down the right-hand side. I think he's not getting forward just as much as he used to. That could be age as well, I guess. But I was expecting, right, okay, you go back to basics, you sort the problems where you think you found them, fix them, but then you have to try and build on that, and that you have to lay down a kind of
a blueprint for how you go forward.
For what you want the style of football to look like. I've not seen that. If phase one was go back to basics, it seems pretty much to me as if he's still at phase one. Yeah. It is a lot of long balls. It is a lot of, he mentions the second duel, the third duel. That's it. If you're going to pump up long balls, then it is get in and about it. Get runners off a striker. I don't see a defined style. Maybe that is the defined style, and that's what Clement ball looks like.
Do you think there's a bit of a kind of lack of flexibility as well, Jacko? I mean, we know the system they play, but as far as I can see, mate, it doesn't change much. In game. I mean, you watch Celtic, you know their system. I hate to compare it to Celtic all the time, but you know how they're going to play. But to me, there's a real flexibility about Celtic, in terms of fullbacks coming in
People slotting into filling positions. Yeah.
You see the runs that O'Reilly and Hatate make, when Celtic are attacking and when the wingers come in field, and it's just there's a lot of fluidity. I don't really see that with Rangers. I don't see it. I mean, that midfield three stays pretty rigid. As Jacko says, the two wingers stay wide.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. Obviously, they've signed Czerny for the right hand side, and he's very much in the kind of Nicholas Kuhn mould at Celtic, and he wants to come in field all the time. But that's going to be interesting itself, because at the Old Firm we know when you play wide and want to come in, you invariably come into traffic. You come into 10 bodies, and it can be difficult to break teams down. So I think he'll need to adapt his game. I think even this early in Celtic season, you're seeing a different Kuhn in terms of pre-season and the game on Sunday. He seems to be mixing it up a bit, not just coming inside all the time. Obviously come in and get his goal, but I think there has to be more fluidity, more flexibility with Clement's team. And getting back to the guy who's sent the question, and has he got the players to do it? Maybe no, just now. But certainly at the end of this transfer window, I think we've got every right to go and judge him on it, because it'll be his signings and his team.
Philippe Clement has dominated the kind of comments and questions that have been sent into the Hotline Live for tonight's show. Sean Cowan, I think Clement will be gone by Christmas. Can't see things going away anytime soon. Rob Jones, poor performance on Saturday, not a single win during pre-season. More questions than answers. Clement's performance is deeply concerning. And a lot of people doubtful that they'll make the playoff round for the Champions League. George Taylor, Kyiv looks a tough one. Let's see if we can get through that. And Mac McGee, Dynamo Kyiv will be too strong for Rangers off two legs. Rangers not playing at Ibrox will do more harm than good. Although Hugh Dale did chip in with, we can do this more Rangers, so he's staying positive. I mean, it's hard to say. Dynamo Kyiv scored 9 goals in the previous round, didn't they, against Partizan Belgrade? But it is a huge game from tomorrow night, Scott, Rangers. It's massive, as I say. I mean, we're jumping ahead looking forward to the playoff and how it might be a winnable tie. But I think there's a genuine argument that this tie could be even tougher. Just when you look at those Kyiv performances against Partizan, I touched on it last night. Belgrade weren't great defensively, but to score 9 goals at this level, I mean, they destroyed them. And if they put in an attacking performance like that here tomorrow night against what I would say looks a kind of fragile, a bit vulnerable Rangers team, not at full strength, then I think it's going to be a tough night for them. And the key thing is just, I think, staying in the tie, making sure it's still alive, to come back to Hampden, where you would hope that the home crowd, albeit not Ibrox, can get behind them and get them through it.
I think you're right, Scott. I'm also looking at that Rangers team just now. I'm not sure where the goals are going to come from. So, if they can keep the first leg as tight as they possibly can, that'll give them half a chance. But you wouldn't look at that Rangers team that went out at Tynecastle at the weekend and think, well, you know what, if they needed to score 2 or 3, they could. Yeah. So I think it might be a rear guard action.
Yeah, and it looks like Cortez is obviously going to be out tomorrow night, so he's got an issue there. Who comes in? Does he start Czerny?
He's got to start Czerny, hasn't he?
Does Matondo come in the left? Listen, the options aren't great. Czerny's obviously a new signing, but he's not going to be 100% fit. He's not 100% ready. For a game of this size. Does he bring Dujon Sterling back in if he's fit? There's loads of unknowns. I mean, you think of Tom Lawrence playing number 10 on Saturday. Can he really afford to do that? Clement over here in a tough away Champions League qualifier. I think he'd be tempted if Sterling's fit to get him into midfield and just push Diomande slightly further forward. Playing a kind of more dogged 3 in there to get a wee bit more protection.
Yeah.
Obviously, Sterling could play wide. Somebody mentioned earlier on, does he bring in, if Cortez is out, does he go with Jeffrey coming in, maybe in the left flank again, if he wants to keep it tight and protect Yilmaz behind him? It's going to be interesting to see how Clement views this game.
Scott, are you actually suggesting that he might play Dujon Sterling right of Cyril Dessers and Hefty left of him?
Well, maybe one of them. No, maybe one of them. No, I think Sterling, I think he'll come into midfield if he's fit, genuinely.
Do you think he will be fit, Scott? Sorry.
I think Clement said on Friday that he wouldn't make Tynecastle, but he hoped to have him ready for Tuesday. So
I think he certainly made the plane.
He trained. I'm sure he's trained today.
Yeah, I think the punters will be desperate. He gives Rangers that bit of physicality, bit of energy, bit of power. No, that I think they maybe lacked on Saturday. And we mentioned Proper earlier. No, he's the guy who's going to be coming in behind me shortly. We hear to speak to the media, and that would suggest that he's going to get his debut tomorrow night. Big game to come into. He's an experienced defender. We mentioned it last night. Ben Davies didn't have a great game on Saturday. I wouldn't be surprised to see Proper coming in for the start tomorrow night.
Do you know one guy that intrigues me, Scott? Danilo. He's been playing pre-season, cost big money. He looks like a talented player, but
£6 million, man, can't get off the bench for 10 minutes at Tynecastle.
That one astonished me.
I mean, what's that all about? It seems really odd from the outside.
I know, I don't get it. Listen, the one that I'm struggling with is Igamani, the Moroccan boy. I mean, Clement's latest quotes are saying the boy's not even ready to train at first team level. I mean, I don't know. I find that well, they were reportedly. It was reportedly $1.5 million. I mean, if the boy's coming in to play in the B team and be developed, then surely when you sign him, you flag it up as that. Do you know what I mean? You don't big him up as a big proper summer signing. And I think a lot of fans are scratching their head with that one. No, they thought this boy was going to come in and go and challenge Dessers and Danilo, either up front or out wide. Give Rangers a different attacking option. It turns out he's not even in the plane, I don't think, for the...
He's got very little experience, isn't he?
Yeah.
So, clearly, and there is a kind of two separate strategies going on here in this transfer window for Rangers. One is to freshen the squad up with younger blood who could be developed into potential major assets in the years ahead. That's fine. But, you know, at a time when you actually need really experienced guys for your first team, it is a bit of a head scratcher. They're going into this round attempting to qualify for the Champions League, rejig Champions League, so much money there to be gained. It's a head scratcher that they're so undermanned at this point in terms of experienced first team ready players. It's a very, very, very strange situation. I suspect Scott will be right. I think Sterling will need to go into midfield. Because I think as well that might help Diomande. I think Diomande looks as if he could do with almost like a minder in there to let him do his work further up the pitch a little bit. He's got great legs and he'll get about, Diomande, but I think a little bit of a physical presence in there might free him up. And I would expect that would be in Clement's mind for tomorrow night.
A couple more comments on Rangers just before we wrap up. David Rose. The concept of supporting implies supporting Big Phil as well. The season is definitely going to be one of change, but why start slagging the team after one game? And a live one that we had in from Rob Law on Facebook. Guys, I think we just need to calm down and get behind the team and the gaffer. I mean, that is a fair point, to be fair. The season, one game in, I know they won't have a lot of fans tomorrow night, as you said, Scott, but this is when Rangers need their fans more than ever, really.
Yeah, but as Scott suggested there, the fact that they're only looking at potentially a couple of hundred making this trip, that's very unlike the Rangers support.
Aye, that's strange.
I mean, they would usually be there in their numbers. I think Scott was saying that Rangers could have an allocation of over 1,000. And you would expect Rangers fans to snap them up.
Aye.
But it's interesting. We'll see. I think Rangers fans right now are just crying out for a chink of light, a bit of good news.
Yeah.
And maybe, this game might offer them that if they get a performance, they put a performance on, they get a decent result, the tie's still alive going to Hampden. Maybe this could give them a little shot in the arm at a crucial point in the summer, because it's just been one sort of boot in the homos after the next for Rangers fans over the last week.
We before we let you go, Scott, is there any suggestion of any more incomings at Rangers? Is there any whispers that you've heard?
No yet, Daniel, no. I mean, I expect, I still think there'll be at least two coming in. I think the Rangers fans would want more than that, but I think expect at least two. But I think that does mean that two or three will go out. I mean, it was interesting today seeing Ianis Hagi playing for the Rangers B team back in Glasgow. I mean, Jacko's talking about head scratchers. I mean, again,
you're right.
You're coming out of a Champions League qualifier away to Dynamo Kyiv. You've got three fit natural central midfielders, and you've got a guy who's just back for the Euro sitting in Glasgow.
He was always a good player. Hagi for Rangers, I thought. He always did well.
He's a really talented boy. And I tell you something, what amazed me was this time last year, he'd come back from a pretty serious, lengthy injury layoff. But seeing the pre-season matches that I saw from Rangers, he was the standout. I thought he looked really fit. He looked strong, as if he'd really been putting extra time in the gym to come back really sharp at the start of last season. And he was one of the few guys that you looked at last summer and thought, oh yeah, he looks as if he's really up for this season. So for him to then be cut loose as part of the clear out, I found curious at the time. For Clement to come into the club and not want to take a proper look at him, I find even more baffling. Back in January, when he could have recalled him, and then to be sitting in this situation where you need all hands on deck, you've got 2 games against Dynamo Kyiv to try and reach the playoff rounds of the Champions League qualifiers, and a guy who's one of your most experienced international players is playing against Middlesbrough for the B team. I just don't get it. I just don't get it.
Even if he doesn't fancy him, I'm not even no fancy him. Even if he's decided he's going to go, but do you know
take him along for this? Take him along for this match. Yeah,
you need him. I mean, if you're going to sell him, play him in a game like this and might attract a bit more interest. Or I don't know. I don't get it.
He's also a guy who has performed for Rangers in Europe, scoring big goals. The pedigree's there. While he's on your books and while you're paying his wages, why is he not on the plane?
Seems bizarre.
It does seem bizarre.
For what it's worth, he was man of the match in that B team game today. Set up 2 goals, so it doesn't look like he's got much of a future there, Scott, does it? Hagi at all?
No. Listen, he'll go. I mean, he'll definitely go. I just think it's a shame for the reasons that Jacko has said there. I think he's a talented boy. I mean, I do think the bad injury did curtail him. I think he has lost a wee bit of pace. I mean, he was never lightning quick anyway, but I just look at that Rangers midfield, as I say. I mean, we're talking about Sterling getting in, but you get 3 natural central midfielders. Diomande, really inexperienced. Connor Barron, an under-21 international, just in at the club. And Kieran Dowell, who, let's be honest, has been a squad player since he arrived at Rangers. Now, you're not telling me they couldn't have done with Hagi in the squad for this game.
Scott, there you go. Hagi was kind of pushed out the building this time last year to make room for your Kieran Dowells and your Sal Lammers.
Yeah.
I just find it extraordinary. I found it at the time extraordinary. Nothing that's happened subsequently has made me change my mind. And the fact that Hagi was there playing in the Euros, the last guy from the Scottish Premiership to be actually playing, representing his country at major finals. He was the last man standing. And he can't get into that Rangers squad.
When Rangers signed Hagi, they signed him with a view to sell on value, eventually selling him on for big money.
He was meant to be one of the assets.
Yeah, by completely bombing him for the squad. His value's decreasing by the day. This is a guy they're trying to get decent money in for. So crazy.
Go figure.
Jason Miko there on Facebook saying live that Hagi should be in the team 100%. Scott, before we let you go, what does the rest of your evening look like?
We're just waiting on the Rangers. Just
It's a dangerous question, I know that,
I
but
know.
I thought I'd go there.
It depends when I get out. No, we're just waiting on the Rangers kind of contingent arriving. So we believe it's going to be Philippe, Clement and Robin Proper, as I says, come to speak to the media, and we'll get that stuff written up for the paper and online, and then we'll see what Ludland's got to offer later on Monday night.
I'm sure you will, wee man.
If there's something happening, I'll find it, Daniel. Don't worry about that.
There's people, Keith and I had to fight through a crowd today, Scott. It's people protesting, where is Scott McDermott? We need him live in the studio.
I can imagine.
So I look forward to that once you're back. But
Definitely.
hopefully it's a good game for you tomorrow night.
Cheers,
Enjoy
mate.
yourself.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheers, Scott.
Cheers, Jacko.
Scott McDermott.
I'm happy he's working.
In Poland, absolutely. But knows his stuff as well. And that's going to be really a big night, I feel, for Rangers regarding which way it goes.
It's huge. It's massive.
Huge for Clement.
I was just about to say, it's massive for the club, but it's massive for Clement.
Mm-hmm.
Clement really needs to start building some momentum. If you think about the way last season ended, the results weren't good, the performances were poor. He had a potential to win a treble. It fell apart. He lost the Scottish Cup final. He's now got a record against Brendan Rodgers of four Old Firm matches, 3 defeats and a draw. He's entering into real choppy waters. I wrote about it in my column today, because by the first day of next month, if things go badly in these Champions League qualifiers, he's already dropped his first couple of league points. And if he goes to Celtic Park, and if Brendan Rodgers continues to look as if he's got his number and gets a big result there, I think that Philippe Clement comes under real serious pressure. And it does beg the question, why have you just given the guy a 4-year contract? I get it. You want to send out messages about stability, about cohesion, that the club's all, everybody's aligned is the word that they use. I get all that, and that I can understand why Rangers want to put that image out here that, look, don't worry, this might seem all over the place at the minute, but we have a plan, he's our man, and we're going to stick to it. And I get that. What I don't get is, has he done enough over the course of his first 10 months to justify it? To justify having such faith? And I'm just not sure in the decision making that we've seen around the squad in this rebuild, and also with what your actual performance levels that you're seeing on the pitch. I'm just not sure that there's enough evidence to back that one up.
Ian Monroe, who I think was actually responding to your column today on Record Sports Facebook page, he says, looks like any money they've spent may have been wasted. Only one new signing to start the first game. Points dropped, goal difference already inferior. That kind of touches on with what you were saying a minute ago.
It's a bad start. And by the way, I'm sure there were plenty of Rangers fans out there saying, well, as a couple of the guys said, it's one game. So can everybody just calm down a wee bit?
That's true.
And I get that. But I'm not just looking at this one game. I'm looking at a pattern. And I've just yet to be convinced that Philippe Clement really knows what direction he's trying to drive Rangers in at the minute. And that's a bit of an issue if the guys in charge of Philippe Clement have said he's the man and he's going to drive it. Yeah. Okay, you drive. Where are we going? Because there's no sign. There's no sign of direction.
I get that Rangers are probably trying to say, look, we can't just sack managers every time.
And by the way, that's absolutely essential.
Which is true, but it has to be the right manager.
It has to be the right one.
They can both be true.
Yeah, it has to be the right one. And if Philippe Clement had been ripping trees out the ground in his first 10 months, then you go, no wonder they want to put the golden handcuffs on here because this guy. But what has he delivered really? He delivered a League Cup, and as I wrote in my column, Kilmarnock did the heavy lifting for that one because they knocked Celtic out.
That's a good point.
So yeah, I think there's more questions than answers. But as I did say previously, if they get a big performance tomorrow night, if they look good, if you start to see signs of what they're trying to do, if they get a result that keeps them in this, a result that even makes them favourites going into the second leg, then perhaps that could be the sort of shot in the arm that they need.
It all turns around a little bit then, because 20 in Salzburg, that's about as easy as you could probably get in the Champions League.
And it won't be easy. When you look at the first 11 that was sent out at the weekend, you wouldn't really put a bet on that Rangers side overcoming a really competent European outfit, and that's why there'll be problems. And Scott's saying there, it's interesting that Robin Cropper is the player that's getting put up for the media duties in Poland tonight, because that does suggest that he'll be, straight into the defence.
Yeah.
Why he wasn't doing that at the weekend, I'm not so sure. Surely it would have been a good idea to get him 90 minutes in the bag, familiarise himself with some of the teammates.
Aye.
I don't know. But Czerny as well, you would expect to start.
He's got to start with these.
Well, he's got a complete lack of options now, really, hasn't he? But the fact is, at the weekend, he did start with Scott Wright, and one of his go-to substitutions was Rabbi Matondo before Czerny came on.
That's true.
So again, it does feel a little bit all over the place. But he's laid out money.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to bring in experienced campaigners. Czerny played at the Euros, the experienced campaigner. Proper was captain of 20 Enschede, the experienced campaigner. Well, they're here for this, for this reason. So I would fully expect them. In fact, if they didn't start tomorrow, you'd need to scratch their head again.
What's going on?
What is going on?
Whatever happens, I bet it won't be boring. Right, I know I'm jumping about the place, but a couple more comments on O'Reilly that have come in. Ronnie here on Facebook, doesn't O'Reilly look so happy every time someone scores? He's so delighted for the scorer and joins in the celebrations. Maybe he's like Henrik and he's happy where he is. Ryan here as well. Great game yesterday, but we need at least 3 players. Striker, centre-half, left-back. Would like another winger and maybe a central midfielder if Matt O'Reilly leaves.
O'Reilly does look happy, there's no doubt.
He does.
Doesn't look as if he's in a huff, that's for sure.
Aye, absolutely.
But then maybe if he knows he's about to get a contract of 5 times his wages.
Aye, exactly. I know.
That might make him in a good mood.
Exactly.
I'm being a bit facetious. I think he is happy at Celtic. I don't think there's any doubt about it. And, I saw a tweet going out earlier, or what do you call it, an X, I don't know, from Chris Sutton saying, Brighton's not really the required standard for Matt O'Reilly. He should stick around for one season in the Champions League. There's an argument about that as well. If he is as happy as he looks, then I'm sure that will come into consideration.
Mm-hmm.
But let's just see what the next few days bring.
Aye, absolutely. I should say elsewhere today, obviously there was draws for the Europa League playoff round. Hearts were involved in that. And of course, Kilmarnock and St Mirren too. Hearts, obviously, they were drawn against, I can't even pronounce this name of the team from, I think, Ukraine. Kryvbas.
Good luck with that.
Aye. Kryvbas Krivy.
Right.
Or Victoria Pleasant.
Yeah.
And that's who they'll face for a spot in the group stages.
I think it's going to be Victoria Pilsen, wouldn't you?
Fingers crossed, just purely for working purposes. And in the Conference League, Kilmarnock, if they get by Tromsø, they've got Copenhagen or Bannico Strava.
That's a bad one.
That's really tricky.
That's a hammer blow.
That's a tough one.
It's just not. Kilmarnock probably cursing their luck a little bit with the previous draw. They gave it a right good bash against Bruges. Ultimately just came up a little bit short, but you were hoping at that point, just give them a nice sort of easy ride, if you like, to get into some group stage football. But that's not the case. FC Copenhagen's a disastrous draw, actually. And
we should say as well, St Mirren, if they get by Brann, which is a tough one, they've got CS again. Apologies if I'm absolutely butchering this. CS Carnival of Romania or FC Astana of Kazakhstan.
Oh.
Kazakhstan, that's the kind of draw of death, isn't it? For teams, just what's it, 5-6 hour flight?
Oh, it's more than that.
Aye, more than that.
I've never actually done the trip. A few of the boys have. I think a few boys did it in style because Celtic hired a luxury jet, and it seemed, I think Craig Swan loves these sort of trips.
Really?
That's all he likes, an underbelly. I think it's an underbelly.
That's a quote. That's a quote. Craig Swan loves an underbelly.
Well, it certainly does.
There's been plenty of reaction, as to everyone. Sorry, to all of the teams' draws today. Raymond Wilson on Facebook saying good luck to all the teams involved. David Jones wasn't as optimistic. He says 5 teams in the group stages will always be nothing more than a dream. The Scottish side playing European style football, it can't and won't happen. Pumped out every season.
It's depressing every summer, given how hard our teams work to try and get themselves a European spot, and then how hard they celebrate the achievement of finishing in a position that gets you a crack at European football. It is depressing how quickly, the Grand Tour comes to a premature end, and it happens year on year. I want somebody to buck the trend. I think Kilmarnock couldn't have been any more unlucky with that.
Aye.
But I think St Mirren, you know, listen, okay, nobody wants to go to Kazakhstan. Who wants to go to Paisley?
True. Here, listen, the way they're playing,
They're
at the moment,
flying.
St Mirren,
They're flying. They started the season flying.
You wouldn't want to play them?
They were terrific all season last season. This isn't a freakish blip. This is a steady
Aye.
story of progression with St Mirren.
with an excellent manager.
Yeah, they really are. And I'd love for them. Imagine we could get 4 teams in group stages.
Five's the dream. Don't want to sound like Martin Luther King, but I have a dream, Keith.
Yeah,
It's
well,
5 teams in the groups.
I think 5's going to be
It's a bit ambitious, aye.
asking. But I do think that 4 is achievable this season.
So Hearts are already guaranteed the Conference League,
Yeah.
Celtic Champions League, Rangers Europa League.
So we've got 2 in already.
And Rangers only need to win 1 round.
Oh, you're saying Europa League, is that you rolling them out of the Champions?
Sorry, I'm saying they'll be
Oh, that's
guaranteed,
interesting.
guaranteed Europa League if they can get by 1 more round, either this round or the next. Aye, 4 is very realistic.
I think it's achievable.
Aye, definitely.
And I genuinely think that St Mirren, you know, I think they feel like a club that is ready to start punching above its weight.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to sound like Tony Fitzpatrick here, but but I do. I everything about them is impressive.
Aye.
The results so far, the weekend result, you know, gave Hibs a bit of a doing. I keep my fingers crossed for them, and not without good reason.
John Hunter, there's kind of still in your thunder, saying she get through. Kelly got a harder draw for sure, but fingers crossed for them. I think that brings us to the end, Keith, of today's Hotline Live.
Because our TV's just about. I
was going to say that.
We need to stick another 10 pence in the meter or something.
We have paid the Lecky bill, we promised, but this automatic lights and telly, you couldn't script it, could you?
This is what it's all about these days. This is energy saving stuff and all that, and it's
It reminds me
very admirable.
Have you seen Spinal Tap?
No,
it's like the spoof film, The Band. Just if anyone's watched it, it just reminds me of that, other things going on. The
it
lights.
doesn't really work if nobody's seen it apart from
That's true. Aye. Get in touch if you've seen it.
another movie.
The movie podcast with Daniel and Keith. Listen, thanks for all your comments and all of your questions. If you want to get involved in tomorrow's show, we will be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. Email us at hotline@dailyrecord.co.uk. You can have your say in all of the big talking points. I know. Listen, thanks for watching, Keith. It's always a pleasure. We'll be back tomorrow. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.